Hello and welcome to Black Witch Chronicles. It's a full moon in Scorpio. You're here with Dr. G Love, Lakeesha Harris, and Zoe Flowers. And Mercury's a little in retrograde, so we're going to have to mess around with the technical gear. We're back in Hangouts after our deluxe time together. And we hope we're going to channel some good information about keeping it together. Keeping it together when times are hard, because times are always hard in one way or another. So our question is, how do we maintain our coalition, our togetherness, and our momentum as a movement, working from many different angles around the prism on freedom and liberation? And how do we take that into account when people start to break down? Perhaps we get emotionally triggered, or once the adrenaline wears off of being in the streets, let's say when we're at an action, do we find ourselves sort of having mood issues, yelling at people, or suddenly feeling paranoid or defensive, or any of these kind of things? When this happens, the community is encouraged to come forward and assist the person, and the person is encouraged to have at least one or many, if you do have that possibility, members of your community that you can go to for an assist when something comes up. When we do these actions, we have to regroup and heal ourselves and check in on what's been dismantled or maybe moved out of place, so that we can get it back into place. So that was our meditation for this evening's call, and welcome everybody. Let's get down to some Black Witch Chronicles business.
Well, first, I think we should just send a shout out to all of our viewers and participants on Facebook and Twitter. Oh my gosh, what was the last following stats? Was it about 1,200? I mean, we've superseded our greatest imagination within these last 2 weeks. It's only been 2-3 weeks, and it has just been through the roof. The response has been through the roof. We love you all. We feel your energy, most importantly, and we are happy to co-create some sacred space around healing, around manifestation of everything that we need, and some of the things that we want. So 1,264 followers. Is that right, Zoe?
That is right. And okay. Over 6,000. So let's also give a shout out and say thank you so much to Afropunk for posting us on afropunk.com, posting our photo essay that Fabiola did, Fabiola Jean-Louis, and then also putting us on their Facebook page, because we're at over 6,000 views on the Facebook page. So thank you for all the love that people are giving us. We really appreciate it.
Ashe.
And so, viewers are coming on. So we've got 3 viewers right now. So people are definitely clicking in.
Good. Well, if people want to ask questions, you can go ahead and do that. Type into the chat room, and so we can reveal any questions or any comments. Participation is encouraged.
Absolutely.
Please participate.
Absolutely. The Q&A is open.
So moving into our topic, which is healing justice or healing practices through, is it through trauma? I think that was what we said, right?
Dealing with trauma, dealing with mental health.
Dealing with mental health, dealing with physical health, because I put up a lot of links. I think we put up a lot of links this past week about sugar and its effect on mental health. A lot of people talk about sugar in relation to diabetes and the manifestation of the physical, but we never really talk about it in the manifestation of the mental spiritual, emotional effects that it has on us. Having the highs and the lows and changing of body chemistry and hormonal changes can really shift us into a really unstable place mentally. So when we're doing social justice work, we really need to pay attention to what we are eating, what we are nourishing our bodies with, as well as what we're putting into our spirit or feeding our spirit emotionally, what words we're saying, all of that.
Yeah, I think when we are talking to the warriors who are out in the streets, we can find ourselves eating a lot of junk food when we're doing actions. You know, so a lot of people have not only been in a position of getting yelled at, being threatened, being in really high, all the biochemistry of the body just shifts into a lot of autonomic nervous system stuff, meaning like your fight or flight. Like any of the other traumas of life could kick in a spiral, and sometimes that even makes you crave sugar or want to just, drink a lot of coffee and drink a lot of soda. But a lot of times we really frankly do it all at the same time. So we have got to figure out, okay, I actually have to get a grip and regroup. So if there's only one thing a person can do, I'm not kidding, it is simple. A lot of people say ill, they don't want to do it, but it's the right choice. Water. Water is the right choice. If you really are like, it's not like that, I can't be doing all kind of choices, then choose water. That is such an amazing helper. It helps the physical body, it helps the mental body, it helps the emotional body, it's going to help your blood pressure. Water, we're made of water. This is a body, a vessel made primarily of water. It makes a big difference, the situation with water in your body. And if you can alkalize that water by squeezing half a lemon in the water and or by putting a little cap full of apple cider vinegar in that water, and just making sure that you're doing, 6, 8, 10 glasses, however many you can do, but really doing it throughout the day like that to just clear the system, detox the system, help to rebalance the system, get yourself back into the place that is going to keep your mind working, because this is a strategic movement. We really come forward with our actions, and then we all have to like regroup, and we missed work, and this, that, and the other thing, and our nervous system goes haywire, and there's a lot of many steps forward and then many steps back, and it's so like, what can we do to sustain ourselves as individual cells in this much larger, global evolution, conscious evolution of society and the planet?
And I would say, along with the water too, is the breathing and the asking yourself, what is this situation triggering for me? What is this? Is this a coping mechanism that I developed in childhood? This sugar or the stuffing of food into our bodies, and really asking ourselves, where is this actually coming from? Is this a now thing, or is this something from before that I wasn't able to process before and I wasn't able to deal with before? Once, as you said, once you drink your water and you get yourself calmed down to where you can actually formalize cohesive thoughts, because we know that when we get into that space, sometimes we don't even have cohesive thoughts. So once we do get our nervous system settled down, to really sort of key into why we're being triggered.
Absolutely. I want to talk about healers on the front line, because this is maybe we need to strategically think about where we are placing healers. Not everybody needs to be a part of the movement in the way of marching and confrontation. I think some of us, especially the healers, the Reiki masters, the masseuse, the herbalists, need to be in the back in very supportive and nurturing roles. So when we're talking about water accessibility on the front lines where people are making movements, our roles as healers need to be as witnesses, stepping back, taking assessment of the situation, grabbing the water at the gathering, creation of mobile healing spaces. And when I say mobile healing spaces, using your backpacks as a place where you can carry your tools, something light, your crystals, even a card reading. You know, bring your cards out, do some divinations. You have to have a mobile healing space. Bring you some Band-Aids, whatever can fit in a backpack that can move with you. And bearing witness to what is going on. We need eyes, we need healing hands, we need healing bodies to hold space. So people of color, specifically Black people, if you are healers, I think that some of our roles need to be to step out and away from the marching and being those witnesses and those healers. Not trying to tell you your place, because your place is wherever you say it is, but I'm just saying what we need.
Yeah, another thing you can put in the backpack I find is really useful, aside from any basic first aid that is always useful, you know, is essential oils. Essential oils are very helpful. You know, lavender is really, if people go into a panic attack or just feel some kind of way, get really emotional, certain essential oils, there's so many different kinds out there to utilize, are useful to have. So to rub on people or to just have them smell them, you know, you have to check with the person because some people don't do scents. But that's just another item I've had in the backpack many times, and it's helped.
And I would say, too, you know, something like geranium, juniper berry, that are protector oils that protect against psychic attacks and from, you know, attacks from all different places. So I would say that, too. And bringing some kind of carrier oil as well, like a coconut oil or something like that, because people do have sensitive skin. And so some of the essential oils can be very harsh on people. So also having some kind of carrier oil with you as well, even if it's just olive oil.
Absolutely. And shout out to the sister with the sage this week. That was a powerful picture. And sage can be used for more than just burning. I remind people of that every time. Sage can be used if you're having some sprains, if people are out there and they're having muscle aches. It can be used to steep in some water. And you know, create bandages out of it and roll it onto those sprains and sore muscles. You can make a liniment out of it. Get creative with the herbs. Get to know these herbs intimately, what they do and what they're for, because there are healing mechanisms. There are magic.
And also I would say, too, Reiki circles, you know, for other healers, right? Because we always talk about how we need to constantly be replenishing ourselves. And so if you're a solitary witch out there or you're a solitary healer, you know, really trying to connect into, not trying, but really making it your business to connect into a community, be it online, if that's what you have to do. But really keying in to get yourself together, especially if you're going to be out in the streets helping people, you know, who are protesting. People are going to be carrying a lot of different energies, a lot of different traumas, and so you want to, as a healer, also be protecting yourself while you're out there as well.
Florida water travels great for that Ori, clearing it up, clearing that head.
Yeah, you know, talking about encountering people's traumas, I think it's really helpful for everybody who's out here doing any kind of justice work to pay closer attention. No matter how close you've been paying attention, pay closer attention to what your own personal issues. You know, I'll be messing around on a social media thing like Facebook, and we're getting all excited about what is happening with Black Witch Chronicles, and we're making our 1,000 likes, so I want to be on the computer, and so I'm on there, and I'm sidetracked, and I told this to my fellow sister witches here earlier. I'm sidetracked by a conversation about Bill Cosby, and there being new people coming out. So I say to myself, this catches my attention because it's a trigger for me. Because childhood sexual abuse is consistently a trigger for me, and the whole concept of, watching everybody struggle so profoundly with the rape culture really makes me begin to experience emotions. It's like my inner spirit wants to speak really loudly. And that is one way of describing what a trigger is that your spirit moves through you. Some version of your spirit moves through you, and if that part of your spirit is injured, has been traumatized, and hasn't been really well handled, or you're not really used to thinking of it like that because you usually think of it as an emotion that you want to run away from, the idea is to more go toward it, to say, oh, I'm noticing that this part of my spirit, this part of my spirit that's always composting rape culture and that always feels some kind of way about it is being triggered. It's not just being triggered like, oh, let me take a pill or a drink or a puff or a TV show or something to distract me from it, which we kind of are trained to do, or just, try to get it out of my mind. How about I listen to it? How about I say, who is this talking? How about I actually talk to myself and ask, like, what spirit is this moving through me? And talk to the spirit that is clearly taking over, and see if you get new illumination about what you're really feeling. And it sets us up to be able to chart our progress and get slapped down less often when we do that. And it's the sort of thing you have to put your practice into. But once you start practicing it and start paying attention and honoring your emotions when they come up, rather than putting them to the side, this thing where there's all these Black people out here being pathologized, just yet another one of the macro/microaggressions. We trust our spirits. When we feel some kind of way, we quickly either go into rage, or we quickly either go into shutting down, or we quickly go into one of our many little song and dance, protection mechanisms that we've set up. Even if we do that later when we reflect on it, can we ask ourselves, what was really happening that's one of my little patterns came out that was making me not pay attention? Who was that talking to me? If you can't get your mind clear enough to think about it, ask it when you're on your way to bed. Ask to get clarity in your dreams. Ask that you do some of the work of clearing and getting yourself clear in your dreams. Set your mind to it. This is your head. Tell your subconscious, we're going to do this work tonight. I'm setting my own little internal alarm to specifically do this work. This is how we move forward as a movement. This is how we keep it together. This is how, in the face of endless aggressions, it's just a matter of time before we find ourselves in a similar situation. I hate to say it, but here we are. And we need to be stronger every time. We need to learn every time we get out in the streets. We need to learn every time we want to stand up against injustice. We need to continue to learn and specifically strengthen ourselves personally, really taking it upon ourselves to say, I'm going to really get this thing balanced enough to do the work that I've taken on for myself. Even if you're not out in the streets, even if you're a healer, even if you're a healer in the most beautiful, lovely little space, people are bringing this stuff, and it is going to have an effect. And instead of running away from the effect, if at the end of a healing session or at the end of a day of healing, you feel some kind of way, again, go into it. You are your own well of pure wisdom. Pull that spirit out and have it to communicate with you.
And one of the things that's coming forward for me as you were just talking is I'm just feeling like there's a lot of people out there who feel like they're crazy because they hear voices or because something in them, a voice or whatever, something told me to take a left and a right. I just want, you are not crazy. Whatever you're hearing is guidance for you. And so just like Dr. G is saying, don't shut it down. Don't try to quiet it. Go with it. Follow it. There are so many people that are being talked to every day, and they're trying to shut those messages down because they don't want to make the changes that they want to make in their lives. And so they're doing the sugar. They're doing the whatever it is, the puff, the drinking, whatever it is, to try to also, a lot of it is also trying to numb those voices that are trying to get you to move and make those moves you don't want to make. Maybe quit that job you hate or step away from that relationship that you know is not healthy for you. You are not crazy. We are in crazy times, but we are not crazy.
I shade to that. Yes. We're definitely in some very traumatic times, and some of that is we're in traumatic times, and we also don't need to buy into the hype that we can't find happiness within these traumatic times. Engage in pleasurable behaviors, whatever that might be. Tonight, I was remembering as I rode home, and I rode home in the rain. And the last time I rode my bike home in the rain was when I was in New Orleans after Jazz Fest, after me and G had went to Jazz Fest together. Do you remember that, G? I rode my bike home in the rain, and it was the time where I felt the most free. I just felt so free and happy in that moment riding my bike home. And I'm thinking tonight that, under the full moon, I get to ride my bike home, and I'm going home to have this conversation with my sisters about trauma. And I need to, and Spirits was like, make sure that you reinsert the pleasure, about finding pleasure in the middle of all this chaos. Do something that makes you happy, that brings some joy into your life.
So Keisha, that's what you're saying is just, we lost you for a second, love.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was saying do something that brings you pleasure. I know that it's chaotic. I know that it is, we're being shitted on left and right. And hostile forces want us to believe that in the middle of this, all we have to think about is the trauma, what's going down, people's getting killed, and that all of that brings up fear, and it brings cortisol hormones in our body, that fight or flight response that Dr. G was telling us. And when we can do things that we love, that brings us pleasure and bring us joy, we reduce our heart rate. We bring in natural breathing into our lives, into our body. Those breaths that we take in produce life in our body. And then just that love hormone. If you're a woman, that oxytocin, the feeling of our breasts, the feeling of our body, the pleasure all over our body, that love hormone reduces stress in our body. So do things like have sex.
Find somebody to have sex with. A healthy somebody.
A healthy somebody, and do it. I mean, find some love, something, some happiness, some pleasure in the middle of all of this chaos. We have to do that, because that is the love work that we need to sustain life.
So
do we have any questions, by the way?
No. Not yet.
Okay.
I did pull 2 cards, though. So I pulled the Goddess card, but the card that came up first was the Ace of Cups, emotions, right?
Yeah.
New beginnings, right? A new way to look at emotions, happiness, that happiness you were talking about, sort of flipping the script. Now, what's interesting is I pulled also from my Goddess deck Sekhmet, which is anger and rage.
Mm.
So this was first, right? So getting our hearts, just all that stuff you were just talking about, getting our hearts and minds right. This is a time for a new beginning, right? Again, stepping away from what's no longer working and moving towards something else, but acknowledging that anger, that rage, finding a way to release it and finding the new beginning in this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. We got to acknowledge the rage. We can't keep pushing it down in our bodies. That's something that we have been taught to do. And we talked about this earlier, G, how we have been taught to just, like, keep it moving. You know, put it in your body. Put a cap on it. Put a smile on it. Put some perfume on it. Put a new hat, a new clothes, whatever. Dress it up. No. Acknowledge what is going on in your body in order to shift that.
Because you're not going to be able to heal unless you do. You cannot intellectualize healing. And this makes me think about the conversation we had a couple weeks ago about how this society wants people to just bounce back. You know, we talked about the whole personal responsibility thing, and how society wants you to just bounce back from shit that happened to you, you know, whether it's us as a people or as women or whatever, when things have not been addressed and redressed properly. And then you get blamed for an appropriate reaction to the crazy shit that happened to you in your life. Like, oh, I know these things happen to you, black people, but you should be able to hold down jobs. You should be able to raise healthy families. You should be able to do all this stuff. And guess what? We want you to do it with a smile. We want you to sing and dance for us too and make us feel good about the shit and just stuff everything down. And we're not going to do that.
No. And as healers, we got to hold space for people to, as healers, as witches, we have to hold space for people within our community to have some type of redress.
Right.
Yeah. All of this is just the right stuff. You know, I really like that, Keisha, you brought up pleasure. You know, I take myself out on a lot of dates. I like to be taken out on dates, so I take myself out on dates. You know, I went and looked at the sunset and the moonrise tonight. It was beautiful. And then on my way home, there was fireworks I could see while I was driving home. So, you know, beautiful stuff. I took myself to a concert on Friday. Joan Armour Trading.
Mm-hmm.
It was wonderful. One of my true loves. And, you know, I had to definitely sort of mature into being able to take myself out. I felt like, oh, is there something wrong with that? Or I was uncomfortable out by myself. But once I got the hang of going out, I mean, I just go out to concerts, I go out to shows, I go out to movies, I go out, I take myself out to nice meals. These are the things I need to do. You know, I personally deal with a certain amount of spirits moving through me that make me feel off balance. I think there's a certain amount of empathic nature that I have going on out here that throws me off. You know, a lot of people come to me when times are hard. That's sort of my job, is to be an assist. So I can't wait for somebody else. That's sort of like my, what they call the inner child. Do what you want with that phrase. I'll just use it for now. The inner child type, that younger version of me, you know, sits around and waits for somebody to make me happy. Like, oh, I've had such a rough week. I really could use a walk. I could really use a date. And it finally dawned on me, like, I do not need to wait for someone to provide a service. I can go ahead and get my needs met at any time, just on my own, and not feel bad about it. Not be like, oh, this would be more fun if it was someone else, but really just have that committed pleasure time, because that's part of my practice, and I have to own that. I have to own that part of my practice really is piecing myself out. And in some ways, it's better I'm on a date by myself, so that way I can just do all my thinking and processing. I'm in my own head for a long time, and I can get clarity. So those of you who haven't might want to try a little date with yourselves. Nice.
So we have, and too, on that note, I took a little cat nap under the moon before our call because I was feeling a little tired. So I was like, let me, go under this moon and get some energy. So I scooted my Reiki table right up to the window and just had my head just facing towards the moon just to get some of that energy, and I felt phenomenal. But we do actually have a question from Rebecca Simpson. She posted it on Google+. Can you all talk about the origin of the colonization of our food? How we've been brainwashed into eating the foods that are killing us, and give some shouts outs to the local farmers. They definitely need support if we're going to remove the demand for this poison.
Yeah.
Thanks, Rebecca.
I recently saw a post. I need to get it up there. I'll get it up. Thanks, Rebecca. Which was, I think it was a list of, might even been 37 black farmers, black-owned farms, or community farms around the country. So we need to look into that and get that posted up. Ooh, the colonization of the food. Well, once upon a time, not that long ago, people were enslaved. The class system set up how it was set up, so that crosses, skin tone and inheritance. They were constant immigrants. And so food has always sort of been part of the hierarchy of the world, or at least of this version of the world, and certainly of the United States history. And, we made do, our ancestors really made do with what was served to them. So a lot of soul food is like, turkey necks and chitlins and all of these nice things, pig's feet and this, that, and the other thing, all this stuff that, some of us grew up seeing in the house or eating. And that's because, we killed it. We killed it with the scraps. We killed it with the scraps. We took what we could get, and we made that thing work. It's okay for us to let that go. It's okay to let sort of that making do enslavement food go. I know we have strong identity in the kitchen, so I hesitate to be forceful, because emotional stuff is going to come up. Again, spirits are going to move through us when we change our food. It really upsets a lot of people to change the food identity, because our culture is very much tied up in the food. So really decolonizing your kitchen, holy smokes, that takes effort, because the act of decolonizing your kitchen is not as simple as saying, oh, I'm going to switch things up. You're going to really possibly go through some stuff.
Right.
Or your family's going to go through some stuff. You might be cool. You might be like, oh, I went vegan. But your mama get mad every time you come by her house and you won't eat her food.
Right.
Right. I know that.
Yep.
Yes, emotional.
Me too.
We can keep coming back to emotional stuff.
Yep. And even now, as because I have made the decision just recently, like a week ago, to start to decolonize my own kitchen and become vegetarian. And what that looks like for me right now is that I'm going through the physical changes of decolonizing my kitchen, which is very real, the cravings that you have for I'm finding that the cravings that I'm having for meat and also for products that I used to just go and get in my community, because that's what's accessible in my west side of Chicago community, is the foods that are uh, GMO foods. You know they're GMO foods. That you know that they're not good foods, but they're cheap foods and they're in your hood. And I wasn't eating. I'm an athlete, so I was not eating McDonald's or anything like that. I'm preparing my food, but even in preparing my food, what is accessible in my community is not high grade food. It's not good food at the grocery store. So I'm finding that I'm having more withdrawals from the food and changing my food and shifting my diet than I had when I was smoking cigarettes. When I gave up smoking cigarettes, I went to the Purple People, and Baba Nazir Murray laid hands on me, prayed over me, and the cigarettes, I didn't have the cravings anymore. But now I'm having these issues in my system of shifting. So decolonizing food means another layer of decolonizing the body.
And I'm feeling like, we have that very sort of corporal in the body responses to taking these things away that gave us comfort when we were young, especially if there wasn't a lot of comfort around, but you knew you could get that, whatever that food was that was going to make you feel good. But I also want to raise the issue about, we also walk with a lot of energy as well, right? A lot of attachments and things like that. And so I have to wonder if there are also other energies that are also attached to that food. And so part of it is our own physiology, but I also wonder if some of it too isn't some sort of attachment that's like, are you sure you don't want that? Ham hot. Mm-hmm. That's what I like to eat when I was on the plantation and I'm riding with you. And so I want to still eat those things.
Right. Some ancestors is like, girl, bye.
Right?
You better put that pork chop. I'm hearing my daddy right now, like, girl, I don't know, but I'm going to need a rib tip.
That's like when I try to put some red wine on my ancestral altar when I had it up, and my people was like, we don't drink wine. You need to just go on right to the store and get some Chivas and give us some Chivas, because I don't know who you trying to give red wine to, because we do not drink that. Like, when did you ever see us drink red wine?
Exactly. They get bossy. Seriously.
They do. So I just have to, I just want to acknowledge that too, that it's us, but there's always other stuff going on influencing us as well.
Well, that's where the altar comes in. Hopefully, Keisha, you'll be able to serve your daddy rib tips and everybody, what they need on the altar. You can just pick up a little something and throw a tidbit on there, and you don't have to eat it. See if that works for them.
Yeah, they're gonna have to wait till I detox first. I know. And they're like, you gonna need us. We gonna need a rib tip.
And there's actually a really great book called Afro. I have it in the kitchen. Shoot. Oh, Afro Vegan. It's really good for people who are wanting to make that shift. It's a little labor intensive because he has you make your own seasonings, like actually from scratch, which is actually kind of fun. But yeah, he has all different kinds of African American inspired, Jamaican inspired recipes, and the cookbook also has a soundtrack to it, and it gives you the origin of the food as well. So as you're cooking, you can also listen to the music of the region. So Afro-Cuban, I definitely would recommend that book as well. But yeah, decolonizing from the food that's a whole nother show in itself, really. We could talk about that forever.
But thank you for that question. We'll do.
But it's a necessity for
We're going to talk about food endlessly. We're always going to talk about food. It's what
Yeah.
we're dealing with all day, every day, is what we're putting in our body. We're going to always talk about food.
Yeah. So since we're talking,
and one of the
yep. No,
go
go ahead.
I was like, one of those things that we also want to talk about in colonization of food when we get a chance is the sugar plantations, and how rum was made out of the sugar, and so many things that got some of our indigenous ancestors addicted and killed. We can't not talk about colonization without talking about the sugar plantations.
Well, yeah,
and how
then,
right now.
What'd
well,
you say,
next,
Jay?
then you have to mention the colonization of the plants themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Because this agribusiness is actually the colonization of our plant spirit relatives.
Come on.
You know, who are our allies. They help to keep us alive. We have a very profound relationship with the plants that feed us. And, you know, we talked about animals last time. I'll go there with plants. The, you know, both the Africans and the cane were enslaved together. You know, the Africans and the cotton were enslaved together.
Wow. In the same way that the African and the earth were raped together.
Come on.
And continue to be. So it just goes back to how we treat the earth is how we treat ourselves. Wow, G.
And also how we continue to ignore the rape of the earth, ignore the raping and the murder of women, specifically Black. Can we talk about that?
Anything that's feminine is a throwaway.
Yeah.
So, unless there's anything else we want to say about that piece, I wonder if this is a good time to shift into talking a little bit about full moon and Scorpio before we wrap it up tonight.
Yeah, let's do that.
Sure.
Because that is about, you know, full moon in Scorpio is about emotions and about not feeling heard and about second guessing yourself. And so if you are feeling, you know, that way or reacting in certain ways that might be out of character for you, you know, you might want to look at and just recognize also what's happening with the moon cycle, what's happening around you. You know, this is such an opportunity for us to reconnect to the earth, reconnect to the moon, and start tracking and following these moon cycles as we track and follow our own emotions as well. Do either one of you want to say anything about the full moon in Scorpio and maybe what happened, you know, this week?
Well, a lot of emotions. And I'm going to speak. I want to speak mostly about how I was feeling this week. I was a little bit less patient with people, less patient with myself, a little bit more agitated. I think as the week grew on, I felt a lot of I want justice and I want justice now. I had to shut off any, like, as much as I needed to go onto social media, I had to shut some of that stuff down this week, and kind of I feel like I had to lock myself away so that I can process some of the emotions and the heightened state of urgency that I felt in my body. And I also took my blood pressure this week and noticed that it was even elevated. And I'm a fire sign, so this is definitely fire energy. I mean, we were in a new moon in Aries and transitioning to a full moon in Scorpio. So I was going through it as a fire sign. That fire energy was like, I want my justice and I want it now, and I need it served hot and on a plate.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, so you're moving from the fire to that like deeply emotional water sign in Scorpio. So yeah, that'll bring it up. I had to cry this morning. Y'all know because you was there. I had to cry. I cried 3 times this week, and that is a good thing for me because sometimes I'll just fall into the strong black woman zone. I won't cry about it, whatever it is, and lately I've just allowed myself to shift into crying much more, and just expressing my emotions, and also creating boundaries. Creating boundaries is what I would say this full moon in Scorpio can teach us, because when your emotions come up and you honor them instead of run away from them, then you can actually be nice to them. You can be like, oh, you don't like that. I see. That was the thing that caused you to feel that way. Maybe I'll stop watching, movies that have, a ton of murder in them right now, or just make me feel isolated because I'm watching. I just watched 10 hours of TV and it was all very like white hetero patriarchy all day long, and I feel a mess, and I don't know why I feel a mess. I think a lot of people's environments can reveal themselves, and how the environment is interacting with you through this moon, because the spirits are really speaking through. If we think of emotions as the spirit speaking through, then we're thinking like, okay, well, the spirits are speaking really clearly and telling me I don't like that. So, okay, you don't like that. You just got a bad feeling in your stomach. What did you just eat? Pay attention to that. Or you got a weird emotional feeling or feel a little bit off. What did you just eat? It's an opportunity to really pay attention and learn about yourself. I'm doing it.
Right.
I think for me, I felt, and again, we talked about this morning. I was feeling this this week, these highs and lows. These feelings of feeling really grateful for the good things that are happening, but at the same time feeling really angry and sad also about the things that are happening in the state of, where I find myself around certain issues and other things in the world. So for me, it was definitely the emotional, highs and lows.
Well, yeah, it's been an intense week. I mean, just to consistently hear, my heart goes out to all people who have family, friends, or any relationship with Nepal at all. Such a beautiful power center on the planet has really shaken. Really shaken.
Right.
We've lost a lot of human souls, more than 7,000 at this time.
Right.
Sure, that alone, I need to go to bed over. That alone can really, we get so much information so quickly.
Right.
It's worth stopping to realize, like, wow, we had a huge quake on our planet. People are grieving and mourning all over the world right now. Maybe I'm feeling that.
Right. That's such a good point. What you're talking about is just that stopping. Again, we just keep coming back to that stopping and just acknowledging a lot of fucked up shit happened this week. And, but like Keisha said, other things happened too, right? Babies were found in that rubble, alive. A teenager was found in that rubble. So it's just...
Yeah, they just pulled a 102, I think it was a 102-year-old guy out of there.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. We have to And it's very hard to do that. I know it's very hard to do that. To try to pull something good out of the atrocities that we are witnessing every day on the planet. But do it we must. Do it we must. Yeah.
Yeah. And especially as healers, to help people gently get to that space, to get to that other side, or somewhere in the middle.
Or to at least be seen. Because sometimes the person is in a rage. Sometimes the person's in a deep, deep depression spiral. You know, I can be that person, and certainly have been in the past. You know, either one of those people. And when we go into those really heavy places where we're already like way far down into our spiral, then really what a person could do is hold space for you.
Right.
And not expect you to just, you know, be able to have an off. If we all had an on-off switch, wouldn't that be delightful? Oh, I don't want to be mad no more. You know,
Right.
shut this down. So, you know, holding space for people, crucial.
I want to at this time introduce a herbal tool for healing that my mother told me about, that I got while I was in, and I don't know if you can see it, but it's Hawthorne Berry. My mother, I got it. Let me tell you how the ancestors work. So when we were at that herbal store, I think it's called Rose. Is it called Rose's Apothecary?
No.
What is it called?
It's called
Zoe?
Sacred Vibes Apothecary.
That's it. Okay. Sacred Vibes. I want to give a shout out to them.
Sacred Vibes.
Okay. Perfect. Well, let me tell you, I got this, and I didn't know why I was getting it. I saw Hawthorne berries, and the spirit was like, get it. My mama called me like a week after I got home and was like, hey, baby, I wanted to tell you about this berry that I've been taking, and it's so good, and I've been telling everybody, and I've been healing with it. Make sure you get you a bag of it, please. And I was like, okay, Mom, what is it? And she was like, Hawthorne berries. So I go to look up Hawthorne berries. And when we talk about taking care of your heart, your emotional heart, your physical heart, Hawthorne berries is good for a tonic. For the heart muscles. It dissolves the crusty matter in the arteries. And it's good. So good results have been reported in connection with heart disease, such as angina pectoris, heart valve defects, rapid and feeble heart, atrophy of the heart. This herb can also be used in connection with difficulty breathing due to ineffective heart conditions or consequence of a lack of oxygen in the blood. It's just really, really, really good detox, okay? Although it's mild and non-toxic, it may be taken several days or longer for good results. And it also is really good for giving energy. So what you want to do is boil the berries, per my mama. Boil the berries and use it to kind of take some daily as a tonic. Put some in your water. Drink you lots of water. Flush your system out. It can really help the detoxification process. So here's to your heart. Here's to some love. That's the last thing that I want to offer in this healing process.
Thank you.
Now that we are wrapping up, we might have one more question that came through in the chat. We may have answered it though, because it was from Rebecca also. Oh, okay, here she. Okay. So Hawthorne Berry. Any other, Dr. G? Do you have any other things that you can think of as we wait for Rebecca before we wrap up tonight?
I repeat, alkalize your water and drink a lot of it.
Okay.
It's the right choice.
She's saying we answered her questions. So
Okay.
that is it for us for tonight. Any last words? We'll see you all on the next full moon, which is June 2nd.
Yes. We're going to try and do these Black Witch Chronicles, and I say try because, you know, we all are on Black Witch time, on the full moons. And we're going to get a blog up. So keep your eye peeled for, you know, more stuff coming. We have a blog that's going to be coming, and we'll try to do the blog tracking the moon. You know, we'll do maybe once a week, like new moon, waxing gibbous, full moon, waning gibbous, and go around the spiral that way. And continue to share. And we appreciate your comments. We appreciate your questions. We appreciate your support, co-creative, conscious evolution as a community. Thank you so much. One love.
Thank you so much. And we also have a YouTube. This will be our first live chat streaming conversation on our YouTube page as well. So we have our new Black Witch YouTube page also. So we ask you to, you know, watch the videos, continue to share them, like them, etc. Thank you.
Ashe.
Ashe. All right, y'all. Thank you. We love you. Thank you so much. Good night.